Neyland Stadium. No offense to Samford or Georgia fans, but Neyland Stadium is the best stadium in the SEC. That is what Tate Ratledge had to say on his podcast, Real Talk. Real Talk Georgia, his player-led podcast. So I believe Zion Logue is now his co-host with Riley Godey's transfer to Mississippi State. I want to pivot this into a conversation about what Georgia has to deal with in 2023. What's their toughest challenge? And to me, that answer is going to Tennessee in November and playing in Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. And Tate Ratledge, a player who has been to that stadium as a college football player. Now, obviously, he was hurt in 2021 when Georgia went to Neyland and played there, right? Because he got hurt in that Clemson game in 2021. But Neyland Stadium, he considers it to be the best one in the SEC. We know it's big. It holds about 102,000 people, maybe not just quite. That's a whole 10,000 more than Sanford Stadium, which holds not quite 93,000 people, right? So we're talking about a 10,000 difference between these stadiums as far as capacity goes. Now, this is not a video where I'm just going to sit here and compare these stadiums, but obviously what he deals with every day, and he did say no offense to Sanford Stadium. He also doubled that back and tweeted later on after there was some disagreement and some stuff on Twitter about it, and he tweets the fans part was not directed at our atmosphere of fans. This is strictly about the design of their stadium because he says it is a bowl on the river. Now, here's the thing with Neyland. I did go in 2021. I did see what that environment's like. That was actually a night kick, too. So I think, a little bit extra. It was a blackout game for Tennessee in 2021. I think there definitely was extra energy in that stadium. It gets loud, and the stadium physically shakes. There's been a joke that I've seen, and the joke is that it's on its last legs, that the stadium's rusted out, that the stadium's going to fall apart. It's not super nice, right? Is it cool? Yeah, it is cool, and it's cool how big that the stadium is. It's cool that it holds so many people. Don't get me wrong. I think it's cool how they can plan out the sections and make each one a different color as far as what the fans are wearing. This section wears white, this section wears orange, and they can really do the checkered pattern out there when you get an aerial view. That's really cool. I think the Tennessee's band's really good. I listen when we go on the road and we go and see Georgia play these teams, and you get to hear the bands. And I remember Tennessee's as being a pretty good band. So yeah, Tennessee's home atmosphere in the SEC is one of the best ones. Is the best stadium in the SEC. I don't know. I haven't been to some of them, so I can't comment that. Hopefully, I'll check some more off my list over the next couple of years. I'm starting to round out the SEC stadiums, but yeah, it is bigger. Is it a better stadium than Sanford? That's a tough question to answer. I would say no. I do like the design. I like Sanford's kind of open jumbotron section. I think if you closed Sanford, it'd be it'd be louder and there'd be more people. I suppose would fit in that. But I do like the way it's designed because of the view. But you are on the water with Knoxville, and it becomes a really tough place to play because it gets so loud. And I think that's going to be a very tough place to play in 2023, this upcoming season. What's the exact date on that? I have it pulled up. November 18th, so the week before the last game of the season. Georgia will round out the season, just traveling that 70 miles west trip to Atlanta to play Georgia Tech. That should be a W for Georgia to end the season. Those programs are still not close to each other, but Tennessee, on the road to Tennessee the week before that, doesn't make it fun. Last time it was freezing. It was night. Freezing is a stretch, but it was very cold. It was probably in the high 30s, so close to freezing. This year, Tennessee's going to want revenge, right? Last year was a very, very hype season for Tennessee. There was a lot going on. They were more relevant than they have been in recent years. They win 11 games. Josh Heupel, year 2. You've got Hendon Hooker, who's having a great season. He's having a Heisman caliber type of season before he gets hurt, before they play Georgia. They get up to rank number 1. They beat Alabama. Then they go to Georgia. They go in there ranked higher than Georgia, according to the College Football Playoff Committee. The AP poll had Georgia at number 1. They go to Athens, and they get the shit beat out of them. I'm cursing on this thing. They get the shit beat out of them. The final score ends up being 27-14, but Georgia had a chokehold on that game defensively. Georgia controlled the pace of the game, and Georgia slowed it down in the second half. The rain didn't help. It was a fantastic crowd, one of the best crowds in probably Sanford Stadium ever. definitely the last few years it was up there for 2 or 3 best crowds, but one of the best crowds probably ever for Sanford Stadium. Those are the types of crowds you get at Knoxville, and I think it's going to be tough. Carson Beck, right? This offseason argument between these quarterbacks, Joe Milton and Carson Beck, two guys in the SEC East, last year the SEC East, who have waited their turn. It's now their turn. There's a lot of hype around them. So you can't compare these two guys. Joe Milton III is going to be in his 6th season of college football. Carson Beck's going to be in his 4th season, right? Both of them haven't been a starter really, but have played in big moments, or not played in big moments. Even Joe Milton actually has more experience, and part of that's because he's older. But Joe Milton, last season, in a 31-14 win over Clemson, he did have the 19 for 28 for 251 and 3 touchdowns. That's a really good ball game from him. Against Vanderbilt, 11 for 21, 147 and a touchdown. He got some garbage time touchdowns throughout the year, had a lot of yards throughout the year because of the scheme that Tennessee runs with that up and down the field stuff, quick hitting. But Tennessee, are they going to be better losing Hendon Hooker, losing their best receivers? I think they take a slight decline. I still think Tennessee is going to be a really good football team this year. It's still a football team. Let's look at their schedule that I think – I can't type and talk at the same time. That I think could win 10 games again, right? 10-11 win football team last season. You go through this thing. Are they going to win at Alabama? I doubt it. I'd take that as a loss. And are they going to win against Georgia? I don't think so. But Tennessee, very, very well could win every other game on this schedule, right? Versus Texas A&M at home on October 14th is interesting as Texas A&M get better. And heading into that Georgia game, they are on the road at Missouri. They have a weird game against UConn. So a weird couple weeks, and on the road against Alabama and Kentucky. All of those weeks precede the Georgia game. I think Tennessee is going to be a little banged up heading in that Georgia game. And by banged up, I don't even mean full of injuries, but just maybe exhausted. Georgia's got a little bit easier of a ride heading to that. A couple home matchups against Missouri and Ole Miss, so similar opponents. And then they go to Knoxville. And what I think is going to be the toughest game for Georgia, but one that in this moment I think they're going to handle. You've got, because at that point, this Georgia team and those question marks, you think those question marks get answered with some tests throughout the year. You know, an Auburn, a home against South Carolina, a home against Kentucky, a home against Ole Miss. Those kinds of games are going to prepare Georgia, I think, by the end of the year for that Tennessee game. For those two inexperienced quarterbacks to battle it out, we'll see who's going to be the better one that day. But I think Tennessee, Georgia's toughest environment in 2023.